coming all the way to Lansing to talk with us and hear what we have to say. One of the biggest things that I found as a foster youth is there was a gap in basic skills. And when I say basic skills, I don't mean knowing how to dress for an interview or how to hold a job or how to do my taxes, although taxes are still weird. But things like how to advocate for yourself. We talk a lot about advocacy, and if a student doesn't know how to advocate for themselves, advocate with them, not for them. And they won't like it, and you can blame me for that, but it's incredibly important. It took me so much longer than it should have for me to work that out on my own. And so I think if you could make that a part of your journey with your youth, I think it would be incredibly beneficial. And then on the other side of that, there are a lot of things that I've picked up. One of the things I'm about to tell you, I picked up from a stranger that sat next to me on a train. But there are certain things that I've been able to put together that have made it possible for me to persevere through foster care and through the lasting effects afterwards, which some people forget about. So let me open my little paper. All right, so the first thing that I was really proud of myself for was I realized that in foster care you become aimless. It's really hard to get a solid sense of yourself when nothing is said. Caseworkers are shifted, schools are shifted, foster homes are shifted. I had to do home hopping during my time in foster care. And when you have so many uncertainties, it's hard to take the time to focus on what really actually drives you. Because if you ask someone, what do you want to be? That's a good question, but who you want to be is more important. And so I started living my life by creating a set of values. My values are honesty with myself and with others, compassion for myself and with others, and perseverance. Perseverance has always been easy for me. I was referred to as an ornery child. I like to think driven. But once I was able to name those values, it gave me focus, because then any decision I make goes through that filter. Am I honest? Am I compassionate? Am I persevering? Because then any decision I make is more certain. And I created myself as my rock. And then the next thing is the advice I got from someone else, is fight, not with your body, but with your mind and your heart. And a lot of times, I forgot that I had those things to fight with too. And when I say fight, I'm not talking about aggression, I'm talking about just strength and sense of self, and using those things to every advantage you can. And then the last thing I was able to teach myself was, in every situation you have exactly 3 choices. You can stay where you are and how you feel, and give yourself time to honor those feelings. Second, you can do something about it and make an active choice. And third, you can let that go, whatever's bothering you. And the most important part of that is none of those decisions is any better or any worse than the others. It's all situational. And the reason why I'm telling you guys this information is because I'm 22, and I could have used that kind of information before. And as a teenager, they may not respond to it right away, but it'll be in their head. So that's something I ask you, is to implant those ideas of create your own rock.
And Mateo.
Hi. I'm Mateo, which you guys have heard a few times now. I'm 17, I'm in 12th grade. I go to school online. I now's the time where I pull out my notes because, let's see. So one of the questions that were asked were how you guys can give help to youth in not just the foster care system, but any schooling system, any child really. Because as I'm sure you all know, trauma does not only exist in the world of foster kids. And I would say for my best advice would be to try your hardest to be someone's someone. I think I would hit walls with communication in foster care when I would see that caseworkers, in my opinion, were like kind of programmed with the same script, you know? It was kind of like hearing the same thing over and over. And it would be new people coming to me, but I was hearing the same things. And after a while of hearing the same things, you stop listening. So another thing is that I feel that it's expected of us to automatically trust you, because at the end of the day, the choices that are made are kind of, the bigger choices I should say, are not really in our hands. They're choices that you guys can make and put on the table for us. And in order for that to happen, I mean, I feel like to get something out of it, you must put something into it. So, with that being said, I say that because in like the foster care system, or like I said, any system, because of trauma, kids or adolescents are just trained to avoid trust because it's painful, and to avoid trust because it's fragile, and to avoid trust because it's temporary, right? So your trust is no exception to that, in my opinion. And then when trust is there, you'll build a bond that will last a lifetime, because children who've been through such trauma, I feel that we love the hardest and we trust the hardest. And it's just, yeah. Also, in the area of schooling and education, we get a lot on children who are failing or children who are back a grade. This is due to sometimes moving around, yes. And on our panel, we talked a lot about advocating for those children. One of the speakers had a story of where like a kid was going to have to be moved from a different school because of his placement, but moving to that school could have possibly ruined his high school credits, his high school grades, any of that. And little did they know, just by checking a few other options out, that child was able to stay in the school that he was in and continue his learning career as, you know, expected and as hoped. I'd also like to say, you know, even not just for your student, but for your own kid, like, try not to wait until your kid is actually failing their classes to be like, hey dude, you're failing their classes, because by then they're aware. Like, you know, and I like to think that failure stems a lot from discouragement. And discouragement comes from being in a place of no return. Like, I think that that's very true. And once you're failing and you have a whole semester's work to make up, you feel like you're in a place of no return, and then you're discouraged, and then you're like, forget it, you know? So, yeah. I also would like to say that I appreciate any role that anyone here is playing, and I just think that y'all just need a little bit of a push, and I think we'll be great. You know, like a push and a partner. Let's call it that. Because, I mean, if you're a girl, you know, you're in high school, you don't even want to go to the bathroom alone. I mean, don't lie, guys. Come on. Like, if you guys feel better going pee with a friend. That's weird, but whatever. Like, alright, but I'm just gonna say that I'm a foster kid I'm not only a foster kid with trauma, but I'm a foster kid with a voice. And there are many other kids who are foster kids with trauma and foster kids with words that are only missing a voice and a push and a partner. So please remember that.
Would either Ariel or Marianas like to add something to make a suggestion other than what you have already shared in your prepared speech? So this was an impromptu discussion, and I have to say I couldn't have scripted that any better. And I, along with you, would like to just appreciate the willingness, the bravery and courage, and the spirit that these stories, these youth, and all of us together, and how we can move forward and take that from this conference and use that as our fuel when we are tired and discouraged, because they have said it best. And if you'll join me in thanking them.